Well, good morning, good Monday morning to you. I'm Christian Winn, teaching minister here at Colonial, and I'm so happy to be able to share a few minutes with you on this Monday morning. As you probably know, we have been preaching through this summer under a series called Letters from a Friend, where we've been exploring some of the letters of Paul in the New Testament. And I was focused on particularly the book of Romans, which is one of the big, really important books that or letters that Paul wrote. And it was interesting, I was thinking about this. I wound up preaching a couple of weeks ago on the theme of love, and I didn't really mention this during the sermon, but I have been reflecting later, one of the major forms of letters that we send and receive often are love letters, right? Having to do with our declaring our love or our affirming our love for someone else, or someone else doing the same thing for me. And I was just struck by that. And there was actually a passage in Romans, I think, that you could include that might justify thinking about Romans in that kind of way, or at least a part of it, which comes from Romans chapter 13, verse 8. It says, "Owe no one anything except to love one another. For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law." Now, I love that sentiment, that effectively command, in a sense, from Paul to owe no one anything except the ongoing debt of love. But I think one of the things I discovered as I was reading through my prep for that sermon was that, at least when you read certain social analysts and theorists and cultural folks and other folks even who are writing in Scripture, that we don't always know how to love. We struggle with that. Our culture, when it talks about love, and when we listen to love songs, when we watch love movies or rom-coms or whatever it is that you like to watch, love is oftentimes primarily an emotion. It's something that we kind of fall into. And one of the things that I was reminded of course, something that you have to learn over time in and through healthy relationships, is that love is way more than a sense of emotional affection. It's actually an action. It's an active thing. It's not just a passive thing. And we all want to be loved, but maybe what we struggle with the most is knowing how to love. And so I just wanted today to share a couple of thoughts that came from some of the folks who I was reading. One was the phenomenal social critic Bell Hooks, and her book All About Love, which is described as something like her love letter to America. And she talks a lot in this book about the lovelessness in our culture and society, and yet the deep desire that we still have, and the genuine hope that we have that we can find love and that we can learn how to love. She also, though, reflects on the fact that sometimes when you read books about love, you won't really find necessarily a good, solid definition. But she draws from a couple of other folks who also are writing, one of whom I'm going to share in just a minute. And she says, to truly love, we must learn to mix various ingredients. And those ingredients include care, affection, recognition, respect, commitment, and trust, as well as honest and open communication. Now, that's a lot. Care, affection, recognition, respect, commitment, and trust, as well as honest and open communication. One of the people that Hooks is actually in dialogue with in her book, who comes from an earlier generation, is a psychotherapist, Erich Fromm. And his little book, The Art of Loving, she highly recommends. I did not have a copy of this book, but it turned out it was on the shelf in the church library. So clearly people here are familiar with this book already and have read some passages and portions of it. And Fromm says that the ingredients that make up love include four things: care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. And I just thought for just a minute I wanted to share with you, what does he mean by these four words together? And I think from Hooks' perspective and also from Fromm's, for real love to be present, all of these things need to be active in one way or another. And that doesn't mean precisely in the moment, but over the course of a relationship. So what's the first one? The first one is care. And he equates care here with the way that a mother cares for her child, right? That she takes the time, spends time with her child. She cares for her child. Not only does she clothe her child, but she hugs and loves on and talks to and is concerned with her child. And there's a wonderful little a quote here in this section where he says, "Love is the active concern for the life and the growth of that which we love." So care almost has this sense of cultivation, of being interested, so interested in another person that you hope to see them thrive, that you want to be there and provide space and time and whatever else that you can so that they can thrive, so they can become who they're meant to be. The second one Fromm describes as responsibility, and here it sort of echoes into the scriptural world where, Cain, if you're familiar with the story of Cain and Abel, Cain murders his brother Abel, and God comes to him and says, "Where's your brother?" And he says, "Am I my brother's keeper?" And of course, the implicit answer that I think much of Christian theology and Jewish theology and Muslim theology have all said is yes. In a sense, we are our brothers and sisters' keepers. And what does that mean? It means we are called to be responsible for one another. We're called to be responsible for one another's lives, to affirm one another, not just to cultivate, but also to understand that we actually have a bond that binds us one with another. But that responsibility, and this is what leads then into the third Fromm's, which is respect. That responsibility doesn't mean domination. Responsible from this perspective means doing so in such a way that we affirm and we allow the other person to be another. Love, in a sense, is not two people or however many people melding into one another so that all of them disappear. Rather, it is the closest possible connection and union while still maintaining our integrity, still being able to be affirmed in our individuality, in the special thing, the special person that each of us are. And then the last one is knowledge. And here I think this echoes with some of the things that you also find in bell hooks, and that it really links in a sense to older notions of knowledge that you'll find in the philosophical traditions that go all the way back into ancient times, which is, in some sense, to know something is to truly love it. To know someone is to truly love them. And the more you know them, the more you will love them, and the more you love them, in a sense, the more you will know them. Even though, of course, Fromm and Hooks as well acknowledge that knowing ourselves, and let alone knowing another person fully, is not necessarily possible in this life. Nevertheless, we're on a journey to know one another, and that journey includes building trust with one another, learning how to communicate with one another openly and honestly. So as you are turning into your day, and as we think about this passage from Paul, that the only debt that we should owe is the continuing and ongoing debt to love one another, I pray you find ways to put into practice what it means to care, to have responsibility, to have respect for another, and to get to know another. Blessings, brothers and sisters.